Now here is the greatest statement we have. Accepting the universe as her body of woe. Body of suffering. She has accepted this universe. It is a body of woe. She has accepted that. Then because of that acceptance of hers, there is hope for this body of woe. Because she has accepted it, there is a hope for this body of woe. Otherwise, it would not happen at all. If she remains up there, the inner being will remain an inner being. Poor fellow, nothing will happen. She has to come down and accept all those conditions and live those conditions through. Then only it can change. So this is the important thing. She has accepted this body of woe. See, in a much larger context, in that little book, the Divine Mother, she has condescended to pass to the portals of the birth, that is a death. She has condescended, she has agreed, she has taken upon herself to pass through the doors of death. Unless she does that, unless she accepts the mortal birth, there is no hope for mortality. There is no hope. She has to come and pass. She has to experience all that things. She has to live. She has to work out all those things. Therefore, accepting the universe as her body of woe. In fact, let us quickly see. This is a very beautiful letter of the Mother, explanation of the Mother, not letter, while describing the suffering of the Divine Mother. She was asked, Mother, suffering comes from ignorance and pain. But what is the nature of the suffering and pain the Divine Mother feels for her children? The Divine Mother in Savitri. What kind of pain? Is she ignorant? No, she is not ignorant. Then how does she feel ignorance and pain? How does she feel ignorance and pain? Suffering comes from ignorance and pain. She has no ignorance and pain, then how does she suffer? That's the dilemma, you see. How does the Divine Mother suffer? In what way? And the Mother answers, it is because she participates in their nature. The crucial word is participates. She does not wave a wand from above. She goes through the entire process of mortality because she participates in their nature. She has descended upon earth to participate in their nature. Because if she did not participate in their nature, she could not lead them farther. If she remained in her supreme consciousness, where there is no suffering, in a supreme knowledge and consciousness, she could not have any contact with the human beings. This is the important thing. Contact with human beings. Unless you have that contact, how can she help human beings? She has to experience that thing. And that is exactly what we are going to see here. This divine pity, the Madonna of suffering, the first Madonna in the Triple Soul Process. She has to have contact with human suffering, human being. Then only she can help the human being. And it is this that she is obliged to take on the human consciousness and form. It is to be able to enter into contact with them. Only her beauty is only she does not forget. She accepts that thing, but she does not forget who she is. Her knowledge is there. She is not doing this thing in the world of ignorance. She is participating in ignorance with the full knowledge of the conditions of ignorance. She does not forget who she is, you see. She has adopted their consciousness, etc., etc. He said, one could not do anything. Did Savitri foresee what she was going to do. Well, this is a slightly different context. She said so. You are not ready it. She had even been told that she would be alone, obviously. And she said, I am ready to be alone. Ready to be alone. That is why the significant death occurs in the lonely forest. There is nobody there around. She is alone, absolutely alone. The gods above and nature below, they were the spectators of that mighty strife. But there was nobody to help her there, see. Alone. You have not read it. It is in the canto they recited last year. This particular canto, what we are doing, you see. Canto 4. Did she know she would meet the mother of sorrows? The mother of might? Indeed, she did. She is meeting now. In fact, she is telling what she is doing. It is said all along that she knew all that was going to happen. It is written clearly. Indeed, to each of them she says clearly, I shall bring to you what you need. You lack strength, you lack power, I shall come back and give strength. You are divine compassion, divine pity, but without strength. I shall come back and give you power. Consequently, she knows it. She tells her later on, you see. Else she would not say so. If she did not know, how could she say so? See, she knew what it was there. If Savitri, the mother of sorrows, in Savitri, the mother of sorrows, that is what we are doing, says, perhaps when the world sinks into a last sleep, I too may sleep in dumb, eternal peace. Last sleep. This is a line from Savitri, which she says in, from her text. Sinks into a last sleep. Now, last sleep is not really so much Indian in terms of spiritual terms. Indian spirituality does not talk of last sleep unless you say it is laya, disappearance, vanishing from its creation. But that is not last sleep, that is disappearance, you see. This is last sleep is essentially an aspect of Christian mysticism, Catholic mysticism, which is a value. That is why he is mentioning that thing. Perhaps when, in other words, the Indian spirituality did not have that experience of the last sleep to really see what should be done with that, and therefore it forgot about it and went up only, you see. It was only one-way traffic, you see. I too may sleep in dumb, eternal peace. That is not her work. She has not come here to sleep eternally, you see. That is human consciousness. It is the human consciousness, it is the idea of the human consciousness that when all suffering will be over, well, I shall sleep. I will let me die and everything will be wonderful. I will be free of all this nonsense which is going around here. It is indeed of this that Sri Aurobindo speaks. When there is this aspiration for a supreme peace, one feels that if there were a pralaya, complete dissolution, and the world disappeared, well, at least there would be peace. There would be peace. But the phrase itself is self-contradictory. For if there were a pralayam, there would be no more peace also. There cannot be any peace also. To be felt, there would be nothing at all any longer. So this is the aspect of the Christian mysticism, of Christian experience, which is a certain value up to a certain point. But this is just one of the contradictions of the human consciousness. Mother is dumping the whole thing on the human consciousness. As long as the world is there and suffering there, I shall suffer with the world. But if ever the world enters into peace, disappears in the peace of non-being, then I too shall rest. She says, if ever the world enters, world cannot. The world is a creation for a purpose. It is not for dissolution. Therefore, my question of going away doesn't arise. It is a poetic way of saying that as long as misery is there in the world, I shall suffer with the world. Only when it ceases to be there, it shall cease for me also. Then what will the mother of sorrows do? What else can she do? She will be the mother of delight. She will be the mother of delight. Anandamayi Mata, delight. She will be the mother of delight. Savitri represents the mother's consciousness, doesn't she? Of course. Yes. What does Satyavan represent? If Savitri is mother's consciousness, then who is Satyavan? Well, he is the avatar. He is the incarnation of the Supreme. He is the incarnation of the Supreme. Now, the avatarhood of Satyavan is clearly established here. Mother's also is automatically there. In some other place, the mother says, he is the avatar. She says, he is the permanent avatar. She uses the word permanent avatar. Not like Rama, Buddha, Krishna, come and go like that. He is the permanent avatar. What does that permanent avatar mean? He is the Supreme who had plunged into the utter depths of inconscience when the inconscience got formed. When the separation of the powers of the divine took place from the divine and there was a total void, then the horror of the separation was seen. The horror of the separation from the divine was seen. And to redeem that horror, the Supreme Himself plunged into that void. To redeem that horror of separation, void, the Supreme Himself plunged into it. And that is the first avatar of the Supreme. That is the permanent avatar of the Supreme. That is what Satyavan stands for. The truth which is there, which is being carried on in the process of evolution, Satyavan, carried on. It is that which is there. In that sense, Satyavan is the permanent avatar of the Supreme. When the Supreme plunged into the void which had got formed after the separation of the divine powers from the Supreme. This is 9th December 1953. She was talking on 9th December, Mother. That is why she has accepted the universe as her body of woe. The mother of the seven sorrows bore the seven stabs that pierce her bleeding heart. The beauty of sadness lingered on her face. Her eyes were dim with the ancient stain of tears. What a vivid description. Ancient stains of tears are there on her cheeks and were visible there. Her eyes were dim with the ancient stain of tears. The mother of the seven sorrows. And the seven stabs that pierced the bleeding heart. This is a direct reference to Virgin Mary. She suffered the 7 steps. She was the mother of 7 sorrows.